This podcast is sponsored by Adelaide. You've probably heard of Adelaide by now. This month, they announced a new product, Adelaide for Publishers. For the first time, publishers can leverage attention metrics to curate inventory, deliver attention insights, and drive higher CPMs. Join the Weather Company, NPR, Westwood One, Cumulus Media, and other leading publishers taking advantage of the attention economy's most popular metric, AU. Maybe one day Mark will convince me to sell guaranteed AU slots on Marketecture, but probably not. Check out adelaidemetrics.com/AFP for more information. Welcome to the Marketecture podcast. This is Ari Paparo. I am joined by Eric Franchi.
Hello.
And two very special guests, the two newest employees of Marketecture, the two newest partners, the almighty AdTechGod.
How are you?
Great. I'm not sure I'll look that up later. And Jeremy Bloom, who's the new Chief Commercial Officer of Marketecture. Jeremy, thanks for being here.
Oh, hello, Ari. Oh, hello, Eric. His deity, her deity, their deity. That's what we should call ATG.
I'm an atheist, so I'm not sure how I'm going to feel about this whole working relationship. So this was big news. I think probably most of our listeners know what we're talking about, but if you have no idea what we're talking about. So yesterday on Thursday, the news came out that we were effectively merging three different businesses. Marketecture, which I've been running for the last 2 years. AdTechGod, which started as sort of a fun, anonymous Twitter account and now is like a little media empire with events and a Slack community and a bunch of other stuff. And the AdTech Forum, which is this exciting new educational web property and video property that has been jointly run by AdTechGod and Jeremy. And we're merging it all together. So the new Marketecture Media is all of those things. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm really excited about it. Since I'm one of the subjects here, I'm going to hand it over to Eric to be the MC. So Eric, interrogate us as you'd like.
Thank you. And congrats, guys. So this morning I woke up to a bunch of text messages and X posts and, DMs. They all basically said the same thing, some variant of WTF, but not WTF in a bad way. Like WTF, this is awesome. Like, what's going on? So guys, WTF, what's going on? Go ahead, Ari, you start.
Yeah, that's actually how I pitched the story to AdExchanger. I emailed them and I said, and everyone should read their write-up. It's more comprehensive than we'll be here. And I emailed Allison. I was like, do you want to hear some really stupid news? And and she's like, what? And I was like, well, I just bought this stuff. And one thing led to another. And this morning I woke up at 7 a.m. to a ridiculous number of tweets and other things saying, my favorite was, Ari is the only person in this industry with enough clout to buy God. So I like that one.
Catch us up on the state of Marketecture. Like, what did it start as? What is it today? And then most importantly, like, where is it now that you've got, all of these things under the umbrella?
Absolutely. So I started Marketecture with Zach Rogers about 2 years ago, and the idea was in-depth interviews of ad tech vendors. Effectively, we wanted to explain the Lumascape to people in depth, and audio, video, and a mixture of free content and paid. That is going very well. That still exists. So we've modified it a little bit, but basically, if you go to marketecture.tv, there's hundreds of hours of in-depth video interviews with every executive you've ever heard of. It's a very affordable, like $45 a month subscription cost. We also have a joint subscription with Digiday. So if you're a Digiday Plus subscriber, you could also get Marketecture at a discounted price. Going great. Then the second stage of Marketecture involved you, Eric, where the beginning of last year, you and I sort of had an itch to do something a little more topical. So we started this podcast, and this podcast has gotten quite popular. It's arguably the most popular podcast in ad tech, if not in advertising. And that turned into a business as well. We sell ads, we sell sponsorships, things like that. So that's the state of Marketecture until yesterday was, basically a media property and a paid subscription service. And now I'm really excited because what we wanted to continue expanding to were things like events and dinners and thought circles and some of the other things that these two other guys have been doing. And I think that by combining them, we have all the legs of the stool of a modern media company, a B2B media company.
I think it's fascinating that you're all media brands in your own way, but you're individuals, right? And, we talk about this idea of, the future of media being, creator led. Like, I mean, this is a real example of what can be built. So it's awesome. ATG, we did an interview with you last year, and folks should go back and read the whole thing. But like, quickly, how did you get to where you started from to here, right? Basically, you were a anonymous troll account, and now you effectively have like a cool media empire. What's going on?
I don't know. I ask myself that every day. I think, after yesterday, after we finalized everything, I kind of went home and just full disclosure, I told my wife and she was super happy. And then she asked me to do the laundry. But the reality is, I don't know, 4 years ago, we're sitting there in a kind of weird time in the industry. We're going through a pandemic. We're spending a little too much time at home and I got bored. And I like memes and I like, trash talking a little bit. So it started off as something really fun. And I think as it started to expand, I started to realize that there was a major gap in the market. And that's where I felt I started to lean in, which was, the industry was going through turbulent times and still is in some way. So I said, why don't I just lean into the community piece? Like, everybody needs support. Everybody needs to look for work. And this is really important, not just for the industry. I think it's just important for people in general to just, put their hand out and help people when they can. And then it just scaled from there. The podcast with you guys, I said, I'm going to try this podcast thing, which I've never done. And that ended up being a total success. And, 30 episodes in, still chugging along.
That's awesome. So we have ATG and we have ATF. And it's not the ATF that everybody might think about. It's the AdTech Forum. What is the AdTech Forum? How does this fit into the whole picture?
I'll start with it and then I'll pass it over to Jeremy as well. So Jeremy and I have obviously been in talks for quite some time, and we thought of this great idea and combining kind of our contacts and our relationships and our strengths. We thought to ourselves, every panel that we've seen in market has been primarily focused on talking about the solution that the tech company has, and not necessarily how it resolves a problem in market or discussing a topic that we feel the industry needs to be better educated on. So, we spun up this idea, hey, we'll go out to ad tech companies. Those ad tech companies will sponsor a series. It's not a sales pitch. It's a conversation. And the people we bring to the panel will be focused around brand and agency. And then I'll kick it over to Jeremy, because really this is where it started to take off for, both TG and, the ad tech forum.
Cool. Thanks, ATG. So really what it came out to is I always wanted to have the opportunity to work with Terry Kawaja. And so being the real AdTechGod, Terry, I figured this was a great partnership. All kidding aside, about a year and a half ago when I started building ohhello.io and building up just an ecosystem for mentorship, for guidance, for advice, I naturally or somewhat unnaturally started creating content. And I realized how fun it was. I realized how big of an impact I was making. We collectively, collaboratively, we're making on people within the greater ecosystem on talking about just hard to talk through components of feedback, advice, guidance. And in a post-pandemic era, I realized just the disconnect that was taking place in advertising, ad tech, media marketing. And AdTechGod and I were talking about this, and we realized that so much of the ecosystem was becoming self-serving, and we wanted to just change that. We wanted to be able to create a structure that brought people up, that lifted people up, that created happiness, that provided education, that provided actual learning development and humanity with a little bit of humor and snark. And so we were talking about creating a video series that prodded people up and helped everyone. So that's what we've been doing. We're so fortunate to partnered so far with Flash Talking, with Cadent, with the folks at Attain, and we've got a lot of other great brands that are coming on board. And when Ari approached us, we realized like between his amazing network, his just what he's done in his career, that this could be a lot of fun between us, and we wanted to do something different.
That's actually the next thing I wanted to ask. One of my favorite things about M&A and transactions is less about like what these assets all look like together. That's important. I love the story, right? Like who called who first, who had the idea, how was it convincing everybody? Can you all get into that?
They called me.
They called
No,
you.
I'm not sure that's true.
They called.
Well, how did this happen? I think at one point you brought it up to me, and then I came back to you. I think, right?
You meaning Ari brought it up to ATG?
I think, like, hey, why don't we work together closely? And then I came back to you a few months later and was like, okay, we should talk, because I think we have something here, and like we finally built this up where I feel like you're actually getting something more than just an X account or a LinkedIn account. And then we ran with it pretty fast.
Yeah, we did run with it very fast. If I could give you my sort of strategic thesis that started with the beginning of Marketecture, which is in this world where media has become decoupled and any expert can write a Substack or do a podcast and make some money, that's great. But you hit a ceiling pretty fast and you can't make a lot of money. And in many cases, you can't even make a living just on that sort of thing. So one of the reasons I created Marketecture was to rebundle experts so that we could leverage things like a Salesforce or events or distribution across those people. And I think this is sort of the culmination, or this is the first real evidence that we're getting scale by being able to put enough of these independent people together and having Jeremy leading our commercial efforts, being able to monetize a podcast, not just from the four of us, but also from partners like your other podcast that we talked about last week, or Eric Suford, his good friend, who Mobile Dev Memo. There's many areas that we're going to touch to try to get scale in this sort of B2B expert area.
Yeah, essentially, we realized that coming together, the three of us, we all bring a different skill set, and none of us were able to accomplish the scale that Ari just alluded to. And so once we started having conversations with Ari, we all realized this could really make an impact on the industry. We can help people by creating a new age media company that is different from anything else out there. Out with the old,
yeah, and I
with
think
the new.
Touch up on something like a lot of that, right? There's multiple moving parts that I think make a good media company. So I think number one is expertise. And that expertise falls across, executive type of expertise and technical knowledge coming from Ari. We got sales expertise and relationship expertise coming from Jeremy. And then you have kind of like a marketing, expertise in terms of how do we capture attention? How do we expand attention? How do we come up with different formats to deliver content in an intriguing way? And I think the more we talk, the more we realize, okay, I'm not a great sales guy. Ari's not a great sales guy, but, Jeremy's fantastic and is very connected and knows everybody. So as we kind of, combine those skill sets, we realized this is a pretty killer group. Like we can really build something special. And then you add into it just the content piece, right? Like you can't go to market with just a podcast, make a couple bucks here and there, but you're never going to scale into any sort of, revenue that would support a big company, which is ideally, where we want to get at some point. So you need various types of content across video and across audio and in person. So the combination helps.
Real quick, Eric, I would also add when you have subscription-based revenue, event-based revenue, newsletter revenue, podcast, media, the videos that we've been doing for the AdTech Forum, Ari's immense knowledge on the industry, we're doing something different. And we all three of us independently realized that change needed to take place. And Ari came to us. I want to give him the proper props and kudos for being very real, very transparent, and clear from his intentions as to why he wanted to partner with both ATG and I and his mission. And immediately the three of us all connected on it. And we agreed. We're like, we see it. We're in. Let's do this.
Yeah, I think we should also take the perspective of the customers, not just the listeners who hopefully are enjoying this podcast and our others, but we really want to be able to offer marketers an ability to get in front of this big, complicated community of agency people and tech people and advertisers, agencies, lots of different new ways, because not everyone can go to the big once-a-year conferences or can, and not everyone reads everything that AdExchanger writes. So we're trying something different. It's a little more guerrilla, a little more informal. And I have nothing but respect for the more traditional media companies that cover our space. We're just doing something different.
What can the listener and the marketer and the agency, like the whole industry, what can they expect out of this crew in the future?
Something incredible. Let me just say that. Okay, so I'm kind of the mad scientist, kind of weird guy with a marketing twist. look, I think the industry is ready for something fresh and new with a different perspective. And I think the industry's hungry. They're hungry for knowledge. They are hungry to stay up to date on trends. They want to learn. I think it's obvious at this point with the numbers that Ari has for his podcast, with the way the AdTech Forum has scaled. I think people want to learn. And because the industry changes so quickly, it's important that the content is really up to date. And it's important that content is made available to everyone, to the masses, and not just to the person who can afford a $5,000 ticket to an event or a $500 ticket to an event. There are lots of both junior and mid-level people that do not have the privilege to attend those. And I think making this available to the masses will only benefit the industry altogether and just educate them better.
That said, you threw, or in concert with a couple of other folks, you threw quite a party in Miami.
I mean, why not? It's Miami.
Can we expect more of that?
Yes. So yeah, for sure. There's something coming up for Advertising Week that's being worked on now, probably the same size, maybe slightly bigger, also in partnership. The goal here is, not just throwing parties. I think the party part is to celebrate what we do every day, which can often be stressful, and for us to network and just have fun. I think the real goal is how do we get the right people in the right room to talk about the right topics? And that's something that we are also going to be working on.
I just want to get invited to the parties without having to plan them.
Yeah, that's fine. You're invited. You might have to stand in line for a little bit, but you're good.
I should be like a royal, like the queen who stands there shaking people's hands as they walk into the party. That'll be my new job.
We'll carry you in over our heads on like a royal chair.
Listen, after Miami, let me tell you, you don't want that job. Because that job is people texting and screaming and like shaking the door, trying to get your attention to get in. But no, seriously, the in-person stuff is interesting. Beyond the parties and stuff like that, what are you guys thinking about? What are you planning?
I think we're going to continue expanding our content so that we currently have podcasts. We have the AdTech Forum. We'd like to see the AdTech Forum content go wider, so more on YouTube, more on the social channels, make it bite-size. One of the original visions of Marketecture was to help as a buying guide, and I think we can invest more in that, in doing maybe things like reviews or demos in addition to our current formats. And I think all of us really do want to do events at some point beyond parties. So a party's fun, you make a little money maybe, but it's really just fun. We think there's some opportunities for half day, maybe even full day events that are in areas that are a little less covered. I have a passion for bringing together like product managers and engineering type people to talk about ad tech stuff, which I think is a little bit of undercovered space. But there's a lot of other opportunities out there.
As Ari was alluding, just being able to help uplift people in our ecosystem with so many people working remotely and just obviously having a centralized company, being able to go to different markets, being able to get people together to help them learn, to help them educate, to help them just feel like there's an actual connection of what we're all trying to build together. That's what matters. And that's what we want to be able to do is continue to uplift and make an impact while having fun.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. So there's people that would love to get involved. I would assume there's people that are potential creators, content creators. There's people that would love to sponsor. Like, I think there's people that would love to get involved in all manner. Like, what are you looking for right now, and what's the best way for folks to reach out?
I mean, from my perspective, it's this: the creator economy is booming, right? And it's going to continue to boom. And the cost for content creation has actually dramatically dropped over the years. Anybody with a webcam, anyone with a $29.99 subscription to Squadcast or any other streaming solution, easy, right? It's not a difficult thing to do. With that comes a really diverse portfolio of skill sets that you can bring to one uniform platform, like a Marketecture, right? The mobile expert, the people person, the deep dive technical person, and combining that is really quite powerful when you think about it. It becomes industry experts across the US or the globe that can contribute to knowledge sharing. And with that comes opportunities for sponsorships and pre-rolls and mid-rolls. So I think the creator economy will continue to grow over the next few years.
Yeah, I think that's very well said. And I'll say that philosophically, we're very open. So there's no velvet rope to get involved in Marketecture, right? So you get involved right now in a bunch of ways. I'm going to name some ways. First of all, if you want to be a guest on a podcast, just email us. Just don't be scared. Email me. Everyone knows my email. LinkedIn, marketecture.tv. There's a contact form. Do that. If you're interested in sponsorship, which I think you should be, it's a great way to reach a lot of people, go to marketecturemedia.com, new website, and fill out the contact form there. Or just hit me or Jeremy online and we will put you in the right place. If you're an end consumer, go to marketecture.tv and subscribe to the newsletter that comes out every Monday. It'll give you an update of all the content we have. And you may not know this, not everyone may know this, but there is a very vibrant Slack environment that AdTechGod has generated that you can join. And it's a community that helps people out with ad ops issues, with news of the week, with all kinds of interesting stuff. So go to adtechgod.com and there's a link to apply to be a member of that community. All of those things are free, except obviously if you want to be an advertiser, we might charge you for that. Lots of ways to get involved. If you're confused about any of this, email me or text me.
And we're always welcoming additional agency folks and brand marketers, performance marketers, actual decision makers to converse with us on the AdTech forum and other platforms as well. So please don't hesitate to reach out to me or to Ari.
Guys, this is exciting as a member of the squad in some way, and then also as an investor in Marketecture through the fund. I'm just like so excited and thrilled about this. So congrats to you all. Anything I missed, or do we end it here and move on to news of the week?
No, I think we nailed it. I'm still going to do memes. I think a couple people DM me and said, is this going to change? No, it's not going to change. I'm still the same person. I'm still cheesy. I'm still going to try to, find a good meme to post out there. But yeah, we're going to have fun. We're going to educate everyone. We're create a strong community, and we're going to grow from here.
Yeah, I couldn't be more excited.
Awesome.
All right, let's call it, and we're going to take a quick break and come back with the news of the week. So ATG and Jeremy, thank you for being here.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys. Best of luck.
I'll see you at the office cafeteria. This podcast is brought to you by Live Intent. Google's deprecation of third-party cookies continues to loom over us, putting future revenue growth in doubt. Live Intent's Hero, that's helping identity reveal opportunities, offers a solution by transforming non-addressable audiences into addressable inventory using first-party data. Hero is scalable, interoperable, and integrated with major industry players, providing a robust framework for navigating the post-cookie era. See how Hero can help you quickly unlock your cookieless inventory at liveintent.com/hero. That's liveintent.com/HIRO.
All right, and we're back. Let's dig into the news of the week. So M&A in ad tech has been pretty non-existent for some time, and that changed this week with an acquisition of Beachfront, a CTV SSP by SeedTag. So SeedTag is like a contextual ad net, mostly in Europe, founded by some Google execs. Beachfront, SSP with direct access to CTV inventory. So, thesis behind this acquisition is to enhance SeedTag's capabilities into CTV by integrating, Beachfront's platform and publisher partnerships. SeedTag, they did a Marketecture interview, yeah?
Yeah, so SeedTag was on Marketecture maybe a year ago. We made that interview free after this event, so if you want to go to Marketecture TV, you still have to register, but you don't have to pay, and you can listen to it. It's interesting because I didn't know very much about them at all. Based in, I want to say Madrid.
It's a big business.
It's a big business, right? They, as part of the announcement, they said they had 600 employees at SeedTag versus Beachfront is actually a surprisingly small business. I think they said they had like 50, 60 employees.
Mm-hmm. This makes a lot of sense, right? So, if you think the future of CTV is, largely sort of kind of contextual driven, just given the available signals, I think, SeedTag plus a CTV asset makes a lot of sense. Do you have the sense that this might, open the market back up for more M&A? I think the thing from my standpoint is CTV is clearly the future. CTV is an interesting market where, unlike a lot of other parts of ad tech, there's a finite amount of, I think, interesting assets that could be acquired. So does this get the strategics? Does this get PE off the bench a little bit? And, we're going to see maybe just a bidding war of sorts for CTV assets, or is it too early?
Yeah, I think you're right that there's a lack of targets in CTV, and Beachfront, being a relatively small company, probably was able to be afforded by another private company. The problem with private to privates is always a valuation battle where both sides think their stock is worth a certain amount. But in this case, there was such a size difference that they were able to get over it. I don't know if this is going to open up the floodgates. The CTV companies that are doing well, like some of your investments or my investments, probably aren't willing to exit except for very large numbers because they see this huge opportunity in front of them. So it's a little bit of a catch-22. But I do think that in general, there is likely to be some more M&A as there's consolidation and some sort of supply pressure on this whole overall digital market, not just CTV.
Yeah, I think that's right. Okay, cool. We'll stay tuned for more. We're going to talk about Colossus again, huh?
Oh, God. Do we have to?
All right, let me set the stage with an update here. So Colossus filed an amended complaint against Analytics, who had that original allegation, removing references to TrustX and BidSwitch while incorporating quotes from a third-party expert, which align with Dr. Augustine Fu's previous statements. So this, I think raised some concerns about conflict disclosure, as Dr. Fu denied conflict despite having a Reddit post suggesting, otherwise. So question around transparency and relationship with Colossus and everything like that. Did I capture that all correctly or no?
Yeah, that was perfect. You've captured the confusion we all have by Dr. Fu's T-shirt that says, a lot of your questions about why I'm wearing this Colossus T-shirt are answered by this Colossus T-shirt. So for those of you who don't know, and I consider Dr. Fu a friend, he has sort of a strange way of doing business, and there's a very, very, very long set of threads on LinkedIn where he sort of defends Colossus, but also says he doesn't work for them in any way. And so it's just strange. I don't have any real thoughts about it, except a lot of people are raising their eyebrow and saying, what is going on here?
Right. I don't understand. I'm confused. But if I helped make everybody a little bit less confused, I feel really good. Job done.
I think the bottom line is that Dr. Fu, for one reason or another, is on Colossus's side in this whole dispute. That's clear. We don't know why. We also still don't know any more about what Colossus was doing, how they were doing it, whether anything was wrong with the analytics methodology. I don't think we're going to find out anything for a while. I think there'll be discovery or the suit will be dismissed, and we may never find out anything. The parent company, Direct Digital, their stock price is going up and down a lot on a daily basis. People probably speculating about the effect. And Check My Ads started posting some things also on LinkedIn about how Colossus execs had sold a lot of stock prior to losing their accounting firm. I cannot in any way, say whether this is true or false or good or bad, but it's just another piece of this dramatic puzzle.
So weird. And this is also a little bit weird because all this lives on LinkedIn. Like, nobody talks about this on X, but people are obsessed with this on LinkedIn. And again, I don't know what that means, but it's just somewhat peculiar.
Well, let me ask you, Eric, what do you think has a more vibrant advertising community, LinkedIn or X?
LinkedIn from a numbers perspective, X from an engagement perspective. I think X is, people are on there all day long. If you are, and try not to say like tweeter or like AdTech Twitter person, but whatever. If you're like in that community, you are in it. And it's like a small but mighty and highly influential group. But I mean, if I post something on X, because we'll post like all of the fundraise announcements and, moves and everything like that on X, like the reach and, the engagement from the broader community is so much more. What do you think?
Yeah, X is where you learn things you wouldn't learn anywhere else.
Yeah.
Like a account, I think Programmatic 101, or posted their version of the entire SP 500 from Trade Desk in a single tweet.
Yeah,
thought that was interesting. But let's not sleep on the Reddit, on the Reddit ad ops group.
Absolutely.
Which is where you find out who's not paying their bills, which is kind of the most valuable information.
Absolutely. We need to make that part of our weekly cycle of news finding for sure, because that turns into news weeks and months later, oftentimes not in a good way.
Really good indicator.
Yeah. Speaking of LinkedIn, we'll move on. So there was a video posted by Brian O'Kelly. I'm sure we'll link to it in the newsletter, talking about a new product from Scope 3. So it's called Scope 3 Media Reporting. Basically, it's an always-on self-service platform that integrates directly into leading programmatic and social platforms, and soon with ad servers, to provide like comprehensive, standards compliant carbon reporting for media. And I think the interesting thing that Bach pointed out was that, they're beginning. So the story of how it came together is interesting. It sounds like it was from a WFA meeting. But B, basically, he's drawing a strong correlation between money that's being spent on MFA and non-viewable and just like all the stuff that we're trying to get rid of, the sort of kind of carbon waste is super high. And isolating that and removing it, he says there's like a direct correlation between removing carbon and increasing basically campaign performance. So you basically can't argue with this one that it's a net positive.
Yeah, I think that's been clear that the carbon is correlated to bad ads. So there's something to say there. And I think we've heard that when Amy Williams came on from Good Loop, she talked about that also. I think this is interesting because many people may have thought that Scope 3 already did this, but I'm pretty sure Scope 3 to date was entirely a publisher-facing product. They rated publisher carbon and let publishers kind of give a report to the advertiser. Pretty typical ad tech strategy. You start on the publisher side, then you get enough adoption, you flip to the buy side, where there's maybe more money and more ability to lock in long-term contracts. So Scope 3 continues its march towards what Brian likes to call the aura of inevitability. That was what he used to call it at AppNexus. The feeling he wants to give to the market that he is the only game in town.
I mean, it's fun watching Bach execute again. I can't lie. I've never worked with him or for him, but he's one to watch at all times.
Absolutely, and we're very happy that he got over his recent health scare where he had some heart problems, mainly because it confirmed that he actually has one, which we're all pretty happy to find out.
All right, moving on, and yes, good to see Bach up and at it again. So another not good announcement. So eMoto is no more. Ericsson, the telecom company, is shutting down eMoto, its ad business that launched in 2017. Effectively, seems like it's due to a lack of like strategic alignment and, failure to meet financial goals. This has been, I think, a tough one for some time. So they just had a significant layoff despite, efforts to pivot into AI and connected TV. And, just generally, I think this is yet another example of challenges faced by telecoms in succeeding in ad tech. And it's weird. It's like always, it's so logical. Right? Telecoms, they have this giant user base, like incredible data. But over and over again, we've seen patterns, perhaps maybe except for one with T-Mobile, that they make massive investments and these things end up not going anywhere.
Yeah, it's interesting that that's happened while the OEMs have done well. So I would never have predicted that Samsung, Vizio, et cetera, would do really well in ad tech and the pipes would not. One thing that's been brought up to me before is that there's a problem of balance in ARPU, that effectively a telecom makes so much money on a subscriber and so little money on the advertising to that subscriber that it's always a conflict internally. And you can talk about synergy all day, but if the lifetime value, let's say, of a telephone subscriber is in the thousands of dollars or tens of thousands of dollars, and you're risking that to make a couple dollars a month in, low margin advertising revenue, it becomes unstable at a corporate level. And that's a good contrast to retail media, where we know that margins are so low on commodity retail that the lifetime value of a shopper at a grocery store is quite low. And then you have high margin advertising revenue to add on top of it. And it's just like, giving crack cocaine to the boardroom. So that's something that I think is worth looking into as a reason why these telecoms end up bowing out after they originally invest. And it sounds like a very exciting opportunity.
Yeah, that's an interesting comparison. I remember when Mike Cassidy was on, he ran through, because that was the week that Walmart announced Vizio, and he sort of like ran through those numbers specific to Walmart and just the value of the advertising business from a gross margin perspective, even if it's dwarfed by the retail business, it's such higher margin that it ends up being like a significant contributor. That's an interesting way to think about it.
Yeah, and Emoto is also pretty weird because they don't have a consumer business. It's Ericsson is a manufacturer of switches and things like that.
Right, that makes it harder.
So it's always sort of weird that they were in this business.
Yeah, it makes it harder. Okay, moving on. So we got two more. So this one's interesting. IAS announced what I think is like an industry first deepfake measurement tool. It's still in beta. The idea is to help advertisers verify the safety of their digital media investments by detecting and avoiding deepfake content. Now, this is like a super timely thing. Obviously, everybody wants to safeguard their ads from misinformation, particularly ahead of the elections, which, my God, is coming up in just a matter of months. So IAS is getting ahead of it. I think it's pretty neat. I guess the question is like, where do these deepfakes live? They probably live mostly on social, and then IAS. I remember when we looked at their earnings, like I think they were very focused on social. They had the big announcement with X. So I guess it's like, very much focused on social and trying to prevent ads from running alongside some wacky stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that does make sense. I think that on the positive side, and I've been a critic of IAS and Double Verify for a lack of innovation. So great to see them getting ahead of something before there's some horrible incident and they're behind it. So it's good to see them pushing out a new product. I spoke to someone who's sort of an expert in this area, and I asked them like, why, how easy is it to detect deep fakes at scale like this? And their point of view was that it actually is kind of easy at this point, because most of them are crappy, done with AI, six fingers, et cetera, but that it's going to get increasingly hard. Another person I spoke to sort of scratched their head and said, like, why only deep fakes? Why not all AI generated content? And that's, I think, a pretty good question also. But it's good to see them making moves.
I think that's right. With all AI generated content, we're at the point in, the cycle where it's pretty easy to tell if something's like written by AI. Like I can tell like when a LinkedIn post or an X post, is like kind of just spun out of chat GPT. I mean, it's wordy, it's like weird, it's, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like I feel like Quora is just overwhelmed with this at this point. It's just it's so much AI generated, but this is imagery. The IAS announcement is about imagery, not about text.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Okay, one more. We'll wrap up from here. This is a fun one. This broke like minutes before the pod, so I thought that the greatest retail media network of all time was already created. Wawa, but no, Wawa has been outdone by Costco. I'm calling it. This one is the most exciting RMN.
I'm very excited.
I mean, I can't wait for the hot dog intenders to be available in my DSP. I just can't wait.
The hot dogs are so good. So I'll tell a quick story here, which is I had never been to one until about 2 weeks ago. Because I live in Manhattan, and there's one of them all the way up in northern Manhattan near Harlem, and I don't have a card. So my mom, who goes there regularly, she travels like 5 miles to go to Costco just so she could get their Kirkland coffee, which for some reason she likes. So I imposed on my mother to take me just as a tourist trip. And I spent the day at Costco with my mom, and it was really fun. And the highlight was the hot dog. It wasn't just cheap. It was good. It's a really high quality $1.50 hot dog. And I've become I am a hot dog intender all the time, pretty much.
Hold on. I have you just said you spent the day at Costco.
Well, it wasn't a day. It was like a road trip, It took a while. It's pretty far, so we had to take the bus there, and then we hung out there, and then we took the bus back. And so it was a good, mother-son outing for my elderly mom.
Hey, if you ever want to make a real serious trip, I'll take you. We can jump in my car. We can load it up and send you back to Manhattan with not just hot dogs, but rotisserie chicken.
Oh yeah,
the bakery is really good. The
meat section was amazing. I unfortunately didn't have my car, so it was on public transport, which makes like getting a rack of ribs and taking it downtown not so feasible. But yeah, I get the point. I like it, and I want to see their data in my DSP. Like I'm really excited about this.
Yeah, I mean it's a big user base. It's like 75 million Americans, I think. So this has the makings of something that's really interesting and really significant. And this just deteriorated into two dads talking about what they like buying at Costco. We lost everybody.
That would be a good podcast, and Marketecture would sell the ads.
Amazing. Let's end it here. Take us home.
All right. This was a great conversation. Eric, thanks so much.
Yeah. Thank you. Congrats again. And I'm excited. Can't wait to see what you guys all do to grow this thing.
A lot more to come.
Thank you for subscribing to Marketecture. New interviews are added every week at marketecture.tv and your favorite podcasting app.